mate. Let's talk about Saturday's game where Sunderland come to SE16 Bermondsey. What are you expecting ahead of Saturday, mate?
Tough game, really tough game. Your home form's excellent. It's not a nice place to go, the Den, from a multitude of reasons. You're not a bad side. And we obviously will get deeper into it, but our transfer deadline day wasn't particularly good, although our transfer windows and recent recruitment has been very, very good. We had an injury to our best player last week. We haven't really replaced him. He plays up front. You have a very good defence and you play quite well at home. Very well at home. So a very tough game that I won't make a prediction yet because I'm sure we'll come to it, but I'd snap your hand up for a draw right now.
It feels a big game. So you still got 18. We got 19. You got 18 games left in the season, but we're both sort of in similar kind of positions. Kind of got similar sort of momentum. It feels like in recent form as well. You know, not necessarily hit and miss, but we win more than we lose at the minute, which is obviously great for both our sides. But it's too early to say it's a crunch game. But it feels like an early crunch game, doesn't it? I don't know if you feel the same going into it on Saturday.
It's a weird season for Sunderland because it's kind of like a free hit.
Right.
In a really odd way. Like if we finish fifth, if you said to me at the start of the season, right, Sunderland will finish 15th, Graham, are we going to be happy with that? I'd be like, yeah, no, fine. Brilliant. Away from relegation, a chance to progress. And then, no offense to every other championship fan watching this, we came into the championship and went, oh, this is crap, actually. And
it's not as always made out, is it? It's not as always made out, is it? Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
I mean, I can honestly say, you know, we've come up against teams that are good, like Sheffield United are good, Burnley are good. They both beat us. Norwich, we should have battered, but when they brought on the likes of Cantwell and they brought on, oh God, the name's completely gone out of my head. The Icelandic centre forward, I can't even think. Timo Pukki, of course.
Pukki.
Yeah. I don't know how I forgot that. But like when they brought those players on, you could see the strength and depth. But you know, the truth is, it's not crap. But the division itself is like, no one's really battered us apart from Burnley for 45 minutes. We spent 11 games without any recognised strikers because both of our centre forwards got injured, and that's the only time our form's really kind of dropped in terms of not the way we play, but the kind of points. It's really hard to play without a centre forward. Ellis Sims came back. We started winning games again. Obviously, Ellis played against yourselves and scored. Ross Stewart came back just after the game against yourselves. Ross Stewart, in my opinion, outside of maybe Gyökeres, in my honest opinion, is the best striker in the league, and I think his goals per minute kind of prove that. Then he's got injured again, and Ellis Sims has been recalled. So it's one of those seasons that is beginning to feel like a missed opportunity. Now, some people think it's too soon for us to go up. I think that's hogwash. Because, you know, ask Huddersfield Town fans how they feel if last season was too soon to get up. I'm sure
take the opportunity when you stay in front of you, right? That's it. We don't
100%. 100%. Momentum's such a big thing. We're a really, really good team. And I feel weird saying that because I haven't said it for about a decade. We'll play some lovely football. We've got some tremendous players that will be playing in the Premier League in soonish. Diallo being the number one, obviously plays for Manchester United and they paid 40 million for him for a reason, and it will show. I think you've probably seen that in the home game.
Yep.
But we've left ourselves really hamstrung with only one striker. We've got Joe Geltart, who's played less senior minutes than we've got left in the season. So it would probably feel more crunchy if I felt like we hadn't hamstrung ourselves a little bit. And the season, it's weird because we're playing really well, but it feels like we're one injury away from our centre forward when we've already had this situation happened already from having like a season of no strikers. And that's going to absolutely hamstring us. But if we went to Millwall and won, then suddenly you're going, well, hang on a minute. Sunderland season is a free hit. I personally think we're in the best 6 sides in the league. I personally would like to go up this season because opportunities there. Why not? And I think anyone can beat anyone in this division. And I think we're one of the better sides in it. I think, unfortunately, it probably feels less crunch to me because I have a worrying feeling the no striker or only one striker situation is going to catch up on us and probably render us a little bit fruitless at some point. But if we win on Saturday, yes, absolutely, massive game, and we're going to go up, of course.
Gotcha. I mean, yeah, I think I agree with you there a little bit. I think the Championship gets misrepresented, like when you're out of it, or from a neutral's point of view, it's like the second best division in the world. No,
Yeah.
but it's the most competitive division in the world. It's like it gets misbranded a little bit. It's brilliant watch. It's brilliant for a neutral, and that is why it's like, oh, it's the second best league. Well, no, it's just the most, like, end to end topsy turvy division. Really, you typically have the 2 or 3 Premier League sides that get relegated tend to go back up because they've got all the parachute payments, and they seem to kind of be up there with the money. And then everyone else, it's like all holds bar, off you go and see what happens, really. And it's like a dogged fight to be up there. And yeah, I agree with you. I think it'd be an interesting tie on Saturday, and I'm intrigued to see you guys. I was surprised to see Roster at play last week. I really was. I thought, and when I saw your team, you went full pelt in the FA Cup, and I kind of thought, I mean, fair enough. Like, you're saying it's like a free hit this season, I suppose, so you take everything as it comes. But I kind of thought, they're kind of going for it in the FA Cup here when, they're doing all right in the league. I don't know if that was a surprise to you as a fan as well, going into that.
I'm not surprised Ross played. I think he'll want to test himself against for me, Ross is a Premier League striker. His injuries are obviously a concern now because he was fully fit last season. But the season he had before he joined us, he was a little bit injury prone with Ross County. And this season he's had 3 months there, and now he's out for the rest of the season. It's 7 months in total, which is not great in an 8-month, 9-month season. But I suppose at the same time, I was a little bit surprised. But then, because he didn't start against Shrewsbury in the FA Cup, we actually went with like a false 9 and we put Diallo up front. The weird thing is, obviously, we're still in the FA Cup. We drew with Fulham and we play Fulham in a replay. And if we beat Fulham, we then play Leeds. And all of a sudden, you're going, oh, this is quite interesting, this. But the only striker we've got that is fit is cup tied. So we don't have any strikers for the cup games, which is weird. Yeah, I mean, in hindsight's wonderful. But if you'd asked me before the game, do I want Ross Stewart to play up front against Fulham and give it a go, I would have said yeah. So I kind of have to, in some ways, I have to kind of go, well, yeah. And you know what? You could have put him on the bench and gone, let's try something different. Let's not risk him. And we brought him on against Shrewsbury in the FA Cup with about 10 minutes to go, and he scored in the 91st minute, and then we got the winner in the he scored in the 92nd minute, and then we got the winner in the 94th. So it was a bit of a mad ending to it, and a lot of the game changed when Ross came on. So you could say don't play him, then bring him on the last sort of 10 minutes if you're 1-0 down to Fulham, and then he goes and does his Achilles then. I think sometimes things are written in the stars, I think, and unfortunately for this season, for Ross, who I literally worship, he has just not had any luck this season, and it's such a shame for him. I mean, I'm gutted for Sunderland, but I'm even more gutted for Ross because Ross deserves better than what he's got. I don't know how many people know his story, but he played for Kilwin and Juniors, which is like, it's effectively just above a pub team. And then he got a move to Albion Rovers, which is like League 2, I think, of the Scottish leagues, which is basically our League 2. And to get the move there, I think his dad raised money, or the fans raised money. That was it, to get him the move there. And then he went to St Mirren and Ross County, and no offense to those clubs, but teams that are not massively well supported. And he's eventually ended up at Sunderland, and he's now one of Scotland's first picks in the squad, and he's arguably the best striker in the Championship. He's scoring a goal every 80 minutes, and then to have his season kind of disrupted and then ended so prematurely is just so sad for him. I'm just really pleased that the Achilles injury he's got is only 4 months as opposed to a year, but yeah, I mean, as a Sunderland fan, it's kind of frustrating that it happened in a cup game.
Yeah, no, of course. I definitely get that. Your squad, obviously, we played against you, obviously, in a freak 3-0 game. We just spoke about it in the little in-between there. Like, first half, I felt like, cool, we're going to, win this quite comfortably. Didn't take our chances, and you always rue your chances away from home because second half, you somehow win it 3-0. I mean, your squad is quite a young squad on paper, I feel like. And when I watch you guys play, there's quite a lot of different players in there. And you've got good experience at the back with Danny Bath, for example, who I think he's a great centre half, and he's always still done it, steadily at this league and this level. But then there's always Diallo on loan, obviously. Ahmad, great player from United. Jack Clark, always kind of flattered to see, but he seems to have found a home at Sunderland, it feels like, as a neutral. But yeah, I mean, even Patrick Roberts, it's kind of a mismatch of players that were promised something 5-6 years ago, and now they're kind of making a go of it now, it feels like.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a model, which I think needs flexibility, and you probably catch me at the wrong time. If you'd asked me last week, I would have told you the model is the best thing on the planet, the fickleness of football fans. But we don't sign players over the age of 24, mainly. I think we maybe should, because you touched on Danny Bart there. Corey Evans, obviously, unfortunately, another player that's out for the season, done his ACL. He's our captain. He's 32. We don't really pay a fee for players over the age of 24. Like Pritchard is another one. He's 29. He came in, but we haven't signed a player, to my memory, for about 3 transfer windows now that's been over the age of 24. I think Roberts came in at 24. He's at the oldest, but alongside bringing in players, I think what was quite clever and what I think they've done. So the under-23 league moved back to under-21. So there's like a glut of players in the Premier League that are really experienced and really experienced at under-21 level and talented, but can't get in the first team. And they've got that 2-year gap where they can't even play in the under-21s. And we've picked up the likes of Dennis Serkin from Spurs, and we've picked up Adji Alessi from West Ham. And these kids are really talented and they're doing really well. But mixed with that, you have your players that are like 22, 23, 24, your Jack Clarks, your Patrick Roberts, that have obviously got a boatload of talent, but have kind of not really found a home for quite a long while. Roberts is probably the best example. Like, his skill set and his close control is frighteningly good. Like, it's Premier League quality, 100%. The kid has obviously just not had a home. He's been to about 8 different places. Like, I think he's been to Twy, he's been to Norwich, he's been Middlesbrough, he was at Celtic where he did well, to be fair, but he came in with us and he scored in the last minute against Sheff Wed in the playoff semi-final. We obviously love him for that. He then played at Wembley, played really well. He's then continued to play well, and his link up with Diallo is, I mean, Diallo's he's another level. I would arguably say Diallo could potentially be the best player in this league, just on sheer talent. He's a joke of a player. He'll have a stinker now on Saturday, now I've said that, but
it'd be interesting to get some.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I mean, he's a fantastic player, and I'll put it this way: he's not going to stay at Sunderland at the end of the season. Even if we got promoted by hook or crook, he's not going to stay at Sunderland. For me, he would fit in the Man United squad. He's a brilliant player. But we have become like a kind of a home for players that can rehabilitate themselves, and also young players that have something to prove. I think there's that kind of. I don't necessarily like the Brentford model, because I feel like the Brentford model is 10 years ago was the Swansea model, and 5 years ago was the Southampton model. You know what happens to all those clubs? Eventually, they end up getting relegated because they have one transfer window where it doesn't really work. But I guess in principle, bringing in young players on cheap wages, cheap fees or frees or buyback clauses and things like that, getting them experience, giving them loads of time in the team and giving them a lot of trust in the team, and then potentially selling them on is heartbreaking. But that's how teams, I suppose, that are not in the top 4 have to now work. And there's a lot of faith in the recruitment because it's been really good. The really disappointing thing is you catch me a day after deadline day when they've left us with one striker and our fan base is absolutely going mad. But Twitter doesn't do nuance. You can't be thinking it's been a really good way that we recruit players and what we do and how we do it, and then simultaneously think they've made a mistake with the striker thing. You either hate them or you don't. That's just the way Twitter is. In reality, they've done a fantastic job. Our recruitment's been excellent, and it's been a massive reason why Sunderland are. A year ago, we were getting beat 6-0 off Bolton in League One. 6-0. And then fast forward a year, we're talking about how I think we're missing an opportunity by not going for the playoffs. So it's been a huge transformation, and that all comes down to recruitment. The same reason why our horrendous fall from grace and drop down the divisions came from bad recruitment. However, we're a little bit hamstrung with that striker situation, but in principle, the recruitment's been excellent, and these young players coming through, despite my concerns that we've got too many young players, seems to work. And that's why I'm not paid to work in football and why I just go on podcasts and talk about it.
Come on then, let's talk about you. I think you talk about your recruitment. You deliberately left one name out there, I feel like, for me, to tee you up for it. You signed Daniel Ballard as well in the summer, mate. Obviously, Millwall fan, we had him on loan last season from Arsenal. I think we fell in love with him, to be fair. You know, I mean, he was not sure of him at first. He found his home on the right side of a back three for us. And you can obviously tell us why he plays for you guys in a second. But became a consistent player for us, a steady Eddie, hard-working, and just a young kid that's a grafter as well. But he had that bit of quality because you could tell he's come through Arsenal, if you know what I mean. You can see that kind of, you know, and also the ability just to win. I think you could see it in him. Like, he's a real key player for us. And I think we went through him in the summer. It weren't really kind of touted too much about. supposedly the rumor is we decided to go against spending a significant amount of money on him due to his injury we had for us last season. But, obviously that's hearsay. No one actually knows that, for sure. But tell me about Ballard, how he settled in at Stadium Light, mate, and what the Sunderland fans think of him.
Yeah, I mean, in short, he's great. I think he's got all the potential to be one of those players that I mentioned before can make a step up to the Premier League. Maybe not now, but I don't think it'll be long before Premier League teams are looking at him. And there was even a rumour somewhere that a few Premier League teams have gone, right, let's go and look at this boy that's gone to Sunderland. I had one of your boys on in the pre-season when we signed him because he was our first signing, and I didn't know much about him, although I think he was at Blackpool. Yeah. And the boy I had on from your side, just every question I asked him, he was just like, yeah, he's great. Yeah, he's just, fabulous, great player. Yeah. And I kind of had a bit of confidence in that because I think, as I touched on in part one of this show, I think our fan bases are quite aligned, although our accents are very different. And we live in very different parts of the country. We understand, I think we understand struggle and we understand sort of working hard for what you get. And I think Dan Ballard is quality. He's a very, very good player, but I think he also epitomizes effort and kind of will to win, as you said before. He plays a little bit more on a 2 for us at the moment. He started off in a 3. Unfortunately, he broke his foot within about 3 games, which was a bit of a pain because I actually went over to see Sunderland play Rangers in Portugal in pre-season, and he was up against Cholak. And I live in Glasgow for clarity, so I'll go see Rangers now and again, and Cholak's a good striker. He scored goals in the Champions League for Malmo last season and stuff like that, and he made him look like he was an amateur footballer. Unfortunately, the floodlights went out after 45 minutes and the game got cancelled, so I can't tell you what he was like throughout the 90 minutes or whether he would have tired. So I felt like I had a lot of confidence in him coming into the season, and he definitely was one of our better players in the first few games, and then we had to live without him for 4 months. So we kind of, I wouldn't say we forgot about him, but it was kind of like, oh, I hope he's as good as he was, or as good as he looked. And he came back in, I think he came back in beginning of December, and he's never really came out the team. And I don't think he will. I think Danny Barr is probably arguably been our player of the year, especially, I would say he's been the underrated one. So I would have to say he's probably my first name on the team sheet, Danny Barr, because he's the one bit of experience we've got. But Dan Ballard's 22, and he plays he's 28, 29. He's just so assured. The big thing for me is he's an absolute unit. And also the girls really like him because he's an absolute unit of a man. I assume the guys might like him as well, but ultimately, he's handsome, he's strong, he's very talented, and I think he's only going to get better. And I think for £2 million, that's an absolute snip.
I think for us, if we had 2, 3, 4, 5, £6 million, we probably would have gone for him. I feel like, and it's the risk reward you take, I suppose, isn't it? In at this level, anyway. But yeah, obviously, I echo what you say there. Great player. I think we're quite blessed with our centre half, so I think it's not an immediate need for us to go and get someone like him. But if we had the money to spend, I think we would have tried to go for him, and it's a shame we missed out on him. I mean, going into Saturday's game, then obviously no Ross Stewart, like you say, no Ellis Sims. I mean, Ellis Sims, he caused us trouble, and we apparently went for him in the summer window as well, and you guys beat him to the signature at the time. What are you expecting from Saturday's game, mate, as an affair? I mean, we've nearly sold out, just for context, and we've not sold out for a little while this season. I think it's a real anticipation from our fans going into it. A couple new signings in the door. We're not really excited by our transfer window. We're a bit like you, deadline day. We wanted to get a centre forward in, but I think 16 teams in the Championship want to get a centre forward in. You know what I mean? It's like, can we get one more to get us over the line and try and kick us on? But what's your hopes going into Saturday's game from a Sunderland perspective, mate?
It's really weird. I'm kind of sitting thinking, just please God, don't let Joe Geltart get injured because I know season's absolutely knackered. But I think we'll go with Geltart up front because he's the only striker that we've got, and I haven't really seen someone with Geltart because he was cup tied last week, so he couldn't play, and I think he signed too late anyway. But we actually should have beat Fulham last week, and Fulham are a really good Premier League side. 7th off top, and they started bringing their proper big guns on half an hour, 40 minutes from the end because we were just better than them. We're playing with a lot of confidence. We play some lovely football, and I think that'll continue. There's a lot of confidence there within the club. Obviously, it's a real shame that, and we're really worried that we've only got the one striker. I cannot reiterate that enough. But let's assume that Geltard doesn't get injured. We have got a striker. We play really good football. We can kind of we attack every team. We don't have any other way of playing. We're not bad defensively. We're just not a defensive team. We just get a team. So I think it could be unlike most of Millwall's games this season, because you have a lot of 1-0s here or there, 2-1s. I think you'll come at us because you're at home. You've got a good home record. You'll want to kind of get into us and kind of like you did away from home, to be fair. But obviously even more so at the New Den. But I also think we don't know how else to play other than getting the ball down, one-touch football, and trying to just show how bloody talented and good we are and youthful we are. So I think it could be quite a high-scoring game. I think it could be the opposite of the 2-2 that we had at the Stadium Light a few years ago, which was devoid of any quality, especially in the nets, and might be a game full of quality. But I think from a Sunderland perspective, if I'm honest, we take a draw. We just want to make sure it's a good performance. Our strikers don't get injured. And I'd like to think we can win, because if we win at Millwall, yeah, great. And we're definitely capable of it. I don't fear anyone. If we beat Millwall, then you're going, well, hang on a minute. Because when we beat you at home, it was like, could we go for the playoffs here? And I would feel like it would make us go, well, if Geltot stays fit and yada, yada, yada. But if I'm honest, mate, I think it's a really tough game. And I think Millwall are there and thereabouts and have been there or thereabouts for the last couple of seasons on merit, not based on luck. I know that it's a competitive division and anyone can go anywhere, but Millwall have been in and around the playoffs for a number of seasons. That's for a reason. You've got a striker that can score goals in Bradshaw. He knows where the net is. Obviously, the boy behind him is one of the better playmakers, one of the more gifted playmakers in the division. If you said to me, look, a 0-0 or a 1-1, will you take it? Oh, yeah, no problem. I'll walk away from it. But the way Sunderland are, it wouldn't surprise me if we went there 1-3-0, but it would surprise me if we lost 3-0. So I think not a tight game. I think both teams will get at each other, but I think it'll be a high-scoring draw.
Interesting. I mean, that game you mentioned at the Stadium Light a few years ago was the most 0-0 2-2 I've ever seen in my life. It's just like an absolute shitter all round. And then, like, I mean, at least we saw some goals as like a little consolation to the long trip up there at the time. I was like, what is this game?
Memorable for all of the wrong reasons. I remember, like, we had 3 horrendous goalkeepers that year, and he was the best of the 3. Yeah, which doesn't say much. But I remember the worst goal being our equaliser when, for some reason, Jordan Archer just fell into the back of his net.
He fell, it's like, I think the first one he flapped around, and then we scored 2 free kicks through Saville somehow, and both of them were like average free kicks, like just on target and hope for the best. So yeah, funny times, honestly. You got to look back and laugh about it now, I suppose, when we're both part of the minute. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting to take that. I mean, I think it's one of those where, like, we've got a full house den from a Mill perspective going into it. It's like, right, if we can get at this slot, you've got a young team. If we could, and the fans, this is where we come into it. If we make that place as intimidating as it comes, let's see if Amad Diallo wants to come to the touchline and take the ball on when he's got, fans on top of him and stuff like that. This is when you could either see them rise to the crop, which, they'll learn from it otherwise if they don't. So, yeah, I'm intrigued to see how it goes. I like your prediction of loads of goals. That would be great as a fan going into the game. But hopefully we're on the better side of it going into it. So come on, and nail me down. Give me a prediction for you, mate. Come on, I want to hear it.
I think I had a different one on my podcast, and I've changed my mind now. I've talked myself out of it. So anyone who listens to my preview show will be like, well, you've changed your mind, but whatever. I'd never get them right anyway. 2-2. I'll go 2-2. It's symptomatic of a game where we'll be like dead good up front, get our striker injured, and then still score 2 goals and we'll go, it's going to be all right. We don't need to play with strikers like we did for a little bit. But I do think you've probably got just about enough, which is weird because I think we've both got really good defences. Ballard and Bart are really good at the back for us, and your defence and Cooper and Hutchinson are solid and big and strong. One place the game might be won, to be fair, is we haven't scored in the league from a set piece all season. I know you're particularly good from set pieces. We don't have a particularly big squad in terms of size outside of Dan Ballard and his biceps, but because he's a big boy. Where you've got really tall guys that, and I'm pretty certain Hutchison is a Newcastle fan, so he'll be extra fired up for it as well, I think. We've all got a cross to bear, I guess, but the game could be won or lost there. That would be interesting. But I think it's an intriguing game, and I think that it's 2 good sides. I'm just really pleased I'm not going into games against, like, I won't offend any teams. Team X in League One, and can't really be asked with the Saturday 3:00 kickoff. I'm actually a little bit excited for this one because I think win, lose, or draw, we'll give a good showing of ourselves, and I'm sure you will as well.
it's a weird one, that, because I agree with you. Like, you got your Rochdales away and stuff like that from League One days back for that sticks in my memory, or Colchester, and they're fallen by the wayside as well now. But these are some absolute grim places to go, but great days out nonetheless. And it's like, for now, I think as Millwall fans, we get a bit complacent because we've had 5-6 seasons now of this. It's like, you don't get complacent, you're happy for what you get, but it's like sometimes you're like, oh, why aren't we doing this? It's like, well, maybe this is like where we should be. Do you know what I mean? But you get complacent as football fans. You always want more, don't you?
Of course you do.
We get greedy. But you're not scared of Duncan Watmore Saturday? It's his debut for Millwall. I mean, he's probably going to start, I reckon, I feel like, personally. It'd be an interesting one.
I'm kind of scared of Honeyman as well. Because
he got a really good reception at Stadium Light, I think. He came off as a sub. I remember a round of applause for him towards the end of the game.
He was quite Marmite as well, when he played for us, which is weird because, you either thought he was a good player that added loads to it, or you thought he was crap and he should be sold at the first opportunity. But Honeyman was kind of, for me, a bit in the middle. He was all right, nice lad, bit like Duncan Watmore. I think Watmore's got more quality, which is not saying much, if I'm honest. But we had a knack last season where any player that played against us, be it a defender, a left back, a centre forward, a defensive midfielder, a blooming goalkeeper at points, would score against us if they used to play for us. It hasn't happened yet this season, so touch wood, it continues. But I was on a Middlesbrough podcast 2 weeks ago, and they said, "Oh, who are you worried about?" And they went through all these players on form. Now, Duncan Watmore. So yeah, a little bit, because it's kind of primed for him or Honeyman to do something. Just one thing I like about them both is, and I think players should celebrate whenever they score against their former team, but I don't think either of them would rub it in. They're both nice lads. So if they do it, it won't be too painful.
Well, that's brilliant. I mean, Graham, thank you so much for all your time today, mate. Just over an hour. I really do appreciate it. And all the best of the season after Saturday, as I'm duly obliged to say. So, yeah, thank you very much, mate.
Of course, no luck Saturday, but after that, mate, absolutely. My dad's best man at his wedding was a Millwall man, and he was absolutely mental, but I loved him. So I've got a lot of time for Millwall. No issues with that at all. He's spent many of my younger days in pubs in Bermondsey, which I definitely shouldn't have been in because I was only 8 years old. But going back to the...
I was going to prod you for a pub name or an area. Do you know what pubs there might have been? Anything for us?
I know it's closed down now, and it was definitely in Bermondsey. And I want to say it had something to do with an elephant, but I could be wrong. But it definitely closed down, which doesn't really surprise me because it was that kind of pub. But yeah, a lot of my really younger memories were like going to England games with my dad and his best mate, brothers Billy and George, who were massive Millwall fans. And when I was really young, 1995, I would have been 9 years old. I went to the New Den and Sunderland won 2-1. Martin Smith scored in the 85th minute, and I was, like I say, 9 years old. So I jumped up in the Millwall end because that's where we had our tickets. And let's just say I quickly realised why you don't do that at the Den. And thankfully, I was protected by my dad's best mates. But yeah, seriously, I have a lot of time for Millwall because of that reason. So
spot on. I appreciate that.
Genuinely wish you good luck is what I meant to say.
That's top. Thank you very much, Graham. But yeah, like I said, thanks for your time today, mate. If you're new around here, guys, be sure to like the video, subscribe if you're new. If you listen on audio, be sure to give us a review. It's greatly appreciated. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and we will see you again after the game on Sunday. Cheers for that.